the last like App State. All right, here we go. We're live. All right, guys. So it is Thursday. It's Halloween. It's Halloween.
Trick or treat, Ben.
Yeah, trick or treat. Already been a busy morning. Been meeting with a publishing company, a production company about how we're going to get the story out and keep the story out. Then we're meeting. Of course, everybody's talked about the plan. Meeting more about bringing nonprofits on right now that are going to be under WNC Strong. Had a good podcast last night that'll go out. It was with the pastor, and we talked about the tent revival that I'm wanting to do, and the tent revival it's going to happen. So I think that's going to be a way for the Holy Spirit to actually move, the Holy Spirit to get going, and we're going to turn this negative. We're going to find God where he's at in it, and we're going to turn it into a positive. And that's the whole point of what we're doing, is trying to make this a positive, see him through the storm, basically. And he's there, and we know he's there. So we're kind of rushed this morning. I drove straight up here. We have the Christian Rangers. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. They have been intricate in all this. They have done a fabulous job. I've kept up with them. Austin Marvel, everybody knows Austin. He kind of connected us. Austin's up there right now working, shooting. Austin's part in this is he's going to help tell the story and bring the story, because we all know what is being put out there right now. The whole story isn't being told. And for America and the world to know exactly how bad it is and what kind of help we need to make this right and to help people and heal people, the story has to be told. So that's what Austin's working on, and that's what I was meeting with the production company this morning. Our whole thing is telling, the 5 W's and getting that out so people know. I'm still having conversations with people, even in North Carolina. Well, I had a conversation yesterday with a guy in New York who owns the Moke dealerships, actually owns Moke America. And we've got our final Mokes coming in, and we're going to use those for raising funds for the build out. And he's like, I didn't even know it hit North Carolina. Nobody's even talked about it up here.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's very connected in Manhattan, and he's very connected in Miami. And immediately, once people know, they want to help. And he's like, we got to get your story out. He's like, I'm going to use Moke and all my other companies. And so we're going to have a call with him today and his marketing people. He's like, we've got to get the story to Manhattan. We got to get the story to Miami so they know what happened and how bad it is. And once we get that story out there, then it's going to be easier to fund the rebuild and do it the way we're talking about with we the people. That's the whole thing, is we're not going to wait on the government, and we don't want big corporations coming in and buying up and taking what our ancestors handed down to us, and what's ours by right. So the whole thing is we the people are going to do it, and it's coming along. If I could, and everybody will find out, if I could just express the corporations and the universities and the big players that have already reached out and want to see the business plan and want to see the model. It's basically a Berkshire Hathaway model based on Western North Carolina owning everything. And it's, again, I like to say I came up with it, but it's God's plan, as everything is, and God owns it all anyway. So what do we care? And that's the beauty of it, is everybody's going to own it. So I'm going to let the Christian Rangers talk, introduce themselves, and here we go.
All right. Hey, I'm Micah Dunford, commander of the Christian Rangers. And it's cool hearing you say all that, because we've been there since the beginning, and it lines up perfectly with the truth of what's on the ground and what needs to happen. Like you said, it's we the people. And even in our mission statement, which we put out on a video and also on the wording on all our social media, is it's funded by the people, supported by the people, and then given to the people ultimately. So that's the only way that we're going to be successful, especially in lieu of the government not really doing much there, is by keeping our focus on the community and then giving that to the people and then empowering the people. Because as you said, it's already been pigeonhole or memory hold, right? I mean, people outside of here don't even know what's going on right now. It's not being put out in the news. You have a ton of information going out at election in 4 days. Like, it's chaos. So nobody's looking at that right now.
Yep.
Definitely not the financial aspect or the long-term aspect, which we were talking about before. So we need to get this story out. It's very important because we can't let this be forgotten. You're having whole communities forgotten, and that's just not how America needs to operate.
No, absolutely. Well, I'm Mark Elkill. I joined Christian Rangers as Micah got the organization stood up literally from scratch as an idea because he cared about people. So he grabbed a bunch of other special forces operators and Army Rangers prior, and then just good red-blooded Americans to deploy to the location of the disaster and start helping people. I heard about it a few days in, got in contact with Micah, and I came on board and jumped in to help out however I could. You know, I know Ben and Austin, you know, these guys do real estate and developing and all, and they're perfect people to come up with a big picture plan just because of their background and who they know and what they're doing, and their heart. You know, there's a lot of organizations out there that are looking at this is a huge opportunity for them. True, it may be, but is it being done for the right reasons? Are they going to come in and grab up and steal the land? We say steal the land, but just grab up and then push the local community, plumbers, electricians, and framers to the side while they come in and rebuild and do all the stuff and make all the money.
Yeah. So our big fear, and why we're wanting to do it the way we're doing it, why we want to do it with we the people and come up with ways to fund it ourselves is, you know, besides the fact of corporations coming straight out and just buying up or taking over and making the money off of it, you know, taking advantage of someone when they're down, they can even come in and look like they're trying to help, right? They can come in and say, hey, we'll loan you the money to fix your business. And, you know, the revenue is not going to be there for 6 months, but we'll loan you the money, but you got to make the payment. And then 6 months, they can't make the payment. You know, it's basically a hostile takeover. Yep. So up front, it looks like they're doing you a favor. So that's a big part of what we're doing. We want to come up with businesses ways that, one, we evaluate them on pre-Helene status, and we buy into their business through WNC Strong. And WNC Strong is owned by all Western North Carolina, so it's not like a corporation. And that way they don't have a loan at all. That we just, you know, WNC Strong takes part ownership. And what you also get with that is the organization that WNC Strong, all the companies coming under, Asheville BizWorks, these people are now going to have a team of very high business acumen that they can lean on. You know, like that's never been available to them. They've always had to make the decisions, and they didn't know what to do in certain situations. Now you're talking about having a team of 100 people that's all business people, and they're pulling for you and wanting you to do good. And if you have a question or you need help or you need something to be successful, you're going to have all this resource right behind you for free. You know, so that's, to me, is actually probably more valuable than the money. And then if you don't want, you know, to have that aspect of it, and you truly do want a loan, we're going to come up with a way that we can loan you the money, and it's not a payment of, you know, you got to pay me $3,000 a month right now all the way through. We're going to come up with a way that we can base your payment on the revenue that you're producing. So we can take a part of your revenue that's not going to bankrupt you or put you under, and, you know, 5% maybe. We haven't came up with a number yet, but that way you're not like, you know, if you only make $10,000 that month, then it's only be 5%. So $500, it's not 3,000. And then that takes all your profit plus puts you in the hole again. Yeah. You know, so that's what those are the things we're trying to come up with. And
yeah, that's just constructing it creatively.
Yeah.
You know, we do creative stuff.
That's it.
In real estate. And that's what we're doing in this piece. And it's good.
The whole thing is to try to make it where people can be successful and give them every opportunity to rebuild and know that there is hope. You know, that we, the things that we're focusing on the endowment, what we hope to get out of this is an endowment that's built big enough to bring hope forever for Western North Carolina. So whenever my kids are here, we're able to have an endowment to offer hope, and came up with the 3 H's. Okay. Housing, health, and heat. So housing, self-explanatory. You know, if we can get you affordable housing, then in some cases in this side be free housing because they already owe $400,000 on it. And then health is mental health, physical health, pharmaceutical health, spiritual health, and then also with health is food, because you got to have food to be healthy.
Right.
So whenever we started this, it was health and medical, and then along the way we saw that heat. So heat's the last H. So then it was like health, medical, heat, and I'm like, well, where's the food at? Our health, housing, medical, and heat. And I'm like, where's the food? And I'm like, well, hell, we'll just take medical and make it health, and that's medical and food. So now we've got housing, health, and heat are the 3 H's to bring hope. And hope is all we're really trying to bring here, because without hope, all's lost. And I've got a story, and it's going to be told, and I'm not proud of all my story, but it's a story that needs to be told because it does bring hope. You know, whenever I was in what should be the happiest time of my life, I've got an amazing wife, have amazing kids. My daughter was 1, maybe 2 years old. I went through the worst depression that you could ever imagine. Like and I'll tell the story, but for me, in a time I was making the most money I've ever made, in that time, I should be the happiest person in the world. And I wasn't, and I didn't know why I wasn't. It came out as because I had taken a double run of antibiotics in a 6-month period, and that messed up my gut biome and made it to where I couldn't get serotonin in my brain because my stomach's good. So I didn't know why, and I didn't want to tell anybody why. And I'm glad I didn't, because if I had told somebody, they would have gave me a prescription pill, and it would have been a mask, and I would probably still be there.
Yep.
But instead, I figured out, first got to get serotonin, and then a little bit later, I figured out I had a gene mutation, MTHFR, and with that, it's funny. Whenever they figured out, they put a brain cap on me, and basically when they put it on, they were like, "Man, you are sad." And I was like, "Well, no, it's on the screen up here." And I'm like, it was the biggest relief of my life, to be honest with you, because I was like, "Yeah, I am sad." They're like, people's brain who look like that end up killing themselves. And I was like, well, the thought maybe crossed my mind once or twice. I'd go to sleep, and at first I cursed God during this. And then I was like, there can't be a God. There's no way there's a God if I feel like this. And then just started taking serotonin, and serotonin boosted me up to where I wasn't depressed, but I wasn't happy. But not being depressed is a hell of a lot better than being depressed. So I was good with it. And then about a year and a half ago, my doctor did my blood work, and he said, I need to see, have you done 23andMe? And I'm like, yeah, but I wish I didn't, because now everybody has my genes. And he goes, I need to see those results. So he did it, and he sent me an email, and I still have the email. I'm going to publish it. It's basically like, don't read too much into this, but you have the worst gene mutation, and yours is so bad, it's the worst I've ever seen. And people who are this bad normally kill themselves. I'm like, dang, people over here just telling me I was supposed to kill myself. But, I'm not even. So all I had to do then was take folate, not take folic acid. Folic acid, they spray on our plants, and it actually causes depression.
Really?
Yeah. And then I had to take pure genomics and SAMe, and now I'm the happiest person in the world. And I'm not mad that I even had to live through that, because I feel it was God had me live through that, knowing I would come out on the other end and be the happiest person in the world. But so I would understand and know what people in this situation are going to be going through. And I can tell them, there's hope. We get your blood work and your genetics testing in 2 weeks. We can at least get you feeling good, and then you're going to be able to rebuild a lot better.
Get you on track.
Yeah, if we get you on track and get you feeling good, then hey, we can actually take off at this. So that's kind of where we're at. So tell us where y'all have been focusing, what you've been doing.
Yeah, that's an interesting segue, because we have a very similar parallel line of effort. And then looking back, like, we've been hashtagging WC Strong the whole time. We thought it was just like a generalized effort. And I guess it is in a sense, but I didn't know that you were connected to that until now. And it's pretty awesome, because we've been supportive of
Yeah,
that.
and here's the thing: we trademarked it, and I've got some blowback. But once people understand why we trademarked it,
Yeah.
so the whole thing is we have trademarks, and it always takes 8 to 12 months to trademark something. So we did this one immediately because we didn't want individuals or corporations to be able to use that in self-profit. So this was a way to protect the citizens, that any money made from it goes to the rebuild and to the healing.
Yes.
So there's a whole, like, we ended up studying all the legal stuff for past projects, and that's why I know to trademark something immediately. So actually the Freemasons in Franklin reached out to my sisters, like, I can't believe somebody trademarked this, da, da, da. My sister sent me the text, and I understand why people are mad about that. And she sent it to me, and I'm like, dang, we didn't get that trademark, because it takes 8 months. So I'm like, well, let's see who got the trademark, and then maybe we can buy it from them. And then we look, and it was us. I'm like, we got a trademark in 10 days? Like, it takes 8 months.
So that's God right there.
So it's God. It's like God gave me that, was waiting for me to grab it. And he knew I'd trade. He showed me the trademark laws 8 months ago or 10 months ago, whenever I started trademarking all my real estate. Because basically we saw a law where our trademark case, where this guy had a real estate company for 20 years, and it was his last name. So it'd be like, I'm Van Hook. It's like Van Hook Realty. And he pissed somebody off. And they applied for the trademark for Van Hook Realty and won. And then this dude had to pay them money for all the money he made while they had that trademark. So we're like, we need to trademark everything. So we apply, like, we have maybe 40, 50 companies. We trademark everything. And I've never gotten one quicker than 8 months.
Anytime there's a dollar involved, somebody's trying to get it.
But our point of trademarking it was so all the money that would be produced from it goes back into Western North Carolina, and it doesn't go in a corporation's pocket or somebody coming in. So now we have the power to cease and desist them if they're trying to sell profit from it.
Okay.
And now we want businesses, the businesses that were destroyed, we want them to profit from it to rebuild their business. It's already, all it is a license agreement, and we just hand it over. The one thing we do want is $2 from anything that's sold goes back into the endowment we're creating.
Okay.
And that endowment will be for for hope, the 3 H's that bring hope: housing, health, and heat. And this is going to be an endowment that is in place when my kids are. So we'll always be able to provide affordable housing, affordable health care, affordable food, affordable heating options forever for Western. So that's how we're trying to take this and create stuff out of it that will be a legacy for Western North Carolina that will forever help Western North Carolina. When I'm dead and gone, there'll be, whoever's running this thing at that point will still have the tool to leverage this endowment to offer affordable everything.
I love it.
That was the point of the trademark. And I've been getting a lot of blowback, but once people see what we're actually doing, and now that we're going to release, like, the setup of the fund and the setup of the business structure, then they can actually see this is legal documents. It isn't me just saying it anymore. It's legal. It's recorded. It's, if we do something that's not for Western North Carolina, they can sue me. I can be kicked out of it. And if this was something that I was trying to make for money, I'd do like any corporation and take 60 or 70% of the corporation up front. And I'm doing 1%. It's our side's 1%, and all the nonprofits are 1%. And the hope for that is that 1% can keep us working in Western North Carolina and focused on Western North Carolina to rebuild and heal Western North Carolina.
Ben, that 99% of the time, the people that are sharpshooting from the sidelines like that are doing it because you're on the right track. So just leave them in the dust, as long as you're helping people, what are they doing?
Yep.
So
you're
talking macro, like umbrella organization, and it's cool because from that macro standpoint, we are concentrated at a micro standpoint comparative to what you guys are doing, but it's Mitchell, Yancey, and Avery County, which we're focused on. And we've had a similar line of effort, which is flexibility, which you mentioned, in a community-centric approach. And I think that's why we're successful. We initially started out with search and rescue and getting immediate health aid. We had 2 doctors. We flexed them out to different locations. We had nurses consistently coming in. We
Nice.
put them at outposts, plug them in, get immediate field care to the people we needed up in the mountains. And then we kept them alive. That was step number 1, right? And then we transitioned with those outposts to supplying the people, but into numerous different things here, which you mentioned, which bringing the heat to the people. We didn't really know that was an identified issue until people started dropping, unfortunately, when that cold snap hit
Right.
a couple of weeks ago. Since then, we've had a little bit of heat, thank God. But we were able to get, I guess, $1.5 million in total coming in order to do
Nice.
Project Heatwave. And we got it to all the people to the point that now we're talking to people and they don't need anything. They don't need any more heat, which is good. That means that
They will in
need
the
to be
future.
rectified. They will
Right now,
soon.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
absolutely
right.
will.
Yeah. And you said macro and micro. So whenever I was going to launch for health and wellness on October 5th, and of course now I understand that it's all going under this. It's called Exponential.
Okay.
And the podcast was Becoming Exponential, Unlocking God's Design. So basically, if you take quantum physics, quantum theory, and throw the Bible into it, you actually can truly see what God's designed,
Okay.
how he designed us. But it's exponential because, where I was with sobriety, you got to start somewhere. You got to stop the direction you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to stop and you got to start going positive. So, it might be one thing one day, and then 2 days later you do 2 things, and then 3 days later you do 4 things. And it seems like you're not going anywhere at first. And it's kind of like this. And then you start going, and then the effect becomes exponential. Like you keep stacking all these small things together,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually it goes like this. Now it can go the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing the wrong thing, like P. Diddy, I'm sure he didn't start down there. He
Yeah.
started, and then fell off.
And he fell off.
So it's all the small. It's the bigger picture. The WNC Strong bigger picture becomes exponential when all of our groups, including us, work together.
Mm-hmm.
And then, all of us doing small things are going to go. And that's whenever, to me, once we get this rolling and we're all working together, you give us 3 weeks of really focused work with a plan, and we can really make a dent and make hope start coming back.
Okay.
And then actually turn people. And that's, my focus is get this whole plan. We've already started it. We're already signing people up. Monday, I've got 10 rules that I'm going to release. And I wrote these this past weekend. I'm finalizing them. I got to get them in.
On a tablet.
But it's basically like do these 10 things for 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Like buy in with me. So all the groups that come on, buy in. No matter what, if you think I'm crazy, just for 4 weeks, act like I know what I'm doing, right? Buy in for those 4 weeks with these 10 rules. And if at the end of 4 weeks you think I'm crazy, then we'll just part ways and go from there.
Yeah.
But I really feel like if you can buy in for 4 weeks and we all work together and we all, like I said, God's given me a vision. And if we can do what I see and we all buy into it, I really think that at the end we'll be like, man, that was worth it.
No, I love it. I love it.
Well, I see a lot of what I observed coming into all this is I see a lot of really good people trying to help individually, and everybody's kind of doing their own thing and trying their own way, and that's not going to be the way forward. The way forward is going to be collaboration, connecting together, smart people planning the thing out.
Mm-hmm.
We all know basic stuff and can just act on a basic knowledge of something. But when it's a disaster of this scale, you've got to sit down with other people and plan it out and come together and work together so you're not stepping on each other, because that's what was happening. People would go up and do a welfare check up in the woods, and then half an hour later, somebody else from a different organization go up and do a welfare check on the same people. That's speed to the people is what was important in the initial phase. And you need to come together. And that's what I see you doing specifically, is bringing all this together.
Yep.
And that's why I wanted to get together with you guys, because how do we join in the efforts? How can we be a part? How do we help out by collaborating instead of trying to do something and figure something out on our own and going off and doing it?
Here's the cool part for me too is everyone I talk to that has came in, and I really feel that it's God bringing everyone in that has the same goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone I've talked to that I want to be a part of this. Whenever I tell them what I'm talking about, like we were already thinking that, or we were already going down that path, and it's like God just gave me the vision to bring it all together. Like I said, it wasn't me. It's two trees in my yard that actually even brought that whole thing in. So it's in 100% not me, but I was just in the right place at the right time with our companies and what we were building and my sobriety, that I was just at the right place. That's all you can say about it. But we all come together and we all work. You know, the disturbing thing that I've seen is trying to get churches to work together. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. A lot of them are like, I'm not going to work with that church. That's not the way we do it. And, you know, the whole thing with the church is it's the body of Jesus, and it is they should be the ones that do all the donations and all the food, because you know, if you've never been to church or you're scared to go to church, if you have to go get food there, then you're going to go. And that opens a door to talk to somebody.
Heck yeah.
You know, and my whole thing in this is this movement, we're going to be what Jesus wants us to be and what he intended the church to be. And we're not going to preach religion at all. We're going to preach Jesus. And that's, you know, religion's out the door. Whenever we do this tent revival, it's non-denominational. It's going to be whoever, whatever, because we want to include everyone. Mm-hmm. You know, and everyone's equal in this platform. If you're a homeless person in Asheville, or you're a billionaire in Boone, you're an equal in this. And, you know, we'll sit at the table and talk about what your needs are. And that was the thing with the health and wellness. You know, addiction comes in a lot of different things. And whenever we were doing that, this is for the heroin addict on the street, or the billionaire that's a company man, you know, a CEO, but he has addiction that's weird. Nobody knows about it. You know, we're here to help everybody. Now, with the heroin addict on the street, we can't just, then when we were talking about it, you can't just put them back out on the street. They'll go right back to doing what they were doing. So we were going to use our companies that I always wondered, why do we even have this company? We pay labor out of it, and that's about it. We don't make anything. It's just a headache. But then I saw those as a way that we could give people jobs, you know, that we don't send them back on the street. And also, right now, people don't know how to be a mom, or know how to be a dad, or know how to be a husband or a wife, because they didn't have an example of it growing up. So during what we were doing then, and it'll carry right over to this. Like I said, everything we were building just goes into this. But we're gonna have programs to teach people how to be a mom, teach people how to be a dad, teach people how to be a husband, teach people how to be a wife. It's hard enough as it is.
Oh yeah. And
you throw with a good example like I had growing up, you don't have a good example growing up. I mean, it's real hard, and it's doable, but it's hard. So if we could show them how to do that and just be an example, you know, that's what we were going to do. And I feel like it all translates to this too. It opens the door to be a positive light, and it's going to open more doors and give more opportunities. You know, this is terrible, and wish it never happened, but it did happen. Now let's use it to be a positive light and save people, and have a revival basically in Western North Carolina, and hopefully it spreads across the country.
I love it. Despite all the chaos and the destruction, and now these families have been uprooted, their houses destroyed, kids are pulled literally out of their arms and gone forever, right? Mm-hmm. But despite that, you see the most glorifying positivity you've ever seen in your life. And then the greatest Americans are coming together to enact that, right? And we are doing a thing right now called Operation Homestead, which lines up very similar to what you're doing. And basically bringing RVs and tiny homes in, trying to get the funding to put these people in homes, because they've been there for 300 years. Yep. They're not leaving their land.
No, they're not.
Blame them. Let's keep them there, right? So we were able to put a young lady with a 5-year-old daughter into an RV yesterday, and just seeing their smiles and knowing that now they have housing and they can figure out the rest later is all about shining light on God's kingdom, which is our mission purpose, is to glorify God's kingdom, right? I mean, we have Christian above Rangers, because God is first, right? And I know that lady wasn't a Christian, and that doesn't matter, because maybe tomorrow, maybe a year from now.
Well, it shows now it opened the door for her to think about it.
Yes, exactly.
And that's all we're trying to do, is open doors. If we can open doors, just have somebody actually think that there is a God, and maybe that is what I'm missing in my life.
Heck yeah. It doesn't mean we're perfect, but that's what we need to be focusing on.
No, we're far from perfect. And that, that's the other thing too. I've got a very colored past, and a lot of these people that I'm talking to do too, but they all have the same mission as me. And that's the thing. If you're somebody out there struggling, saying, "Well, God would never love me," look what I've done. I mean, look at me, okay, first, but I could have that mentality very easily. But I know God does love me, and one thing that really helped me start moving in that direction, that no matter what your past, you hear it all the time, and you're like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." He is judging me, is what you think. But then if you look at the examples in the Bible, and you look at the examples of people through time that end up being the greatest Christians, God needs choir boys, and he loves choir boys, and the church needs choir boys and choir girls. I'm not being one way or the other, but you need the saints in there. But to truly make a difference, God needs warriors. Look at King David. Look at Saul. Saul was out there killing Christians, and then he ends up being, the Apostle Paul, the greatest. So it takes the people that did the bad things and lived through the bad things and know what those bad things are, and how you feel in that situation and what you did in that situation, to be able to go and tell somebody that's doing that now, "Hey, God loves you. Well, you don't know how I feel. You don't know what I'm doing." Well, I do, because I've done it. And I pretty much will think I could say that in any situation. If somebody says, "You don't know how I feel, you don't know what I did," and I'd be like, "Yeah, probably try me out one time."
Yeah.
Let's just see. Let's just see what you think. But the warriors, I call those warriors, are the ones that truly change the kingdom of God and fight for the kingdom, because we know what it was like to be hopeless, and we know what it was like to think that there was no way God could love me. And then once you realize he does, and he never left you, then you're willing to go out and fight for it. And you're willing to do whatever it takes. So that's kind of the way we see it right now, is we're willing to go out and fight. We're not going to give up. And I think the whole group that's assembled around Western North Carolina Christian Rangers, Savage Freedom, Sentinel, there's a ton of nonprofits that are coming in that are Christian based and have faith in Jesus, and they want to fight for it as well. And I think that's really cool. And the other part about it is, we can take WNC strong after we get Western North Carolina healed and in the right direction, and another devastation happens somewhere else. We can take this same group and be so damn effective when we show up, because we already got a plan. Everybody knows what they're going to do. You got housing, you got search and rescue, you got supplies, and it's a big group, and we deploy. You've got the finding the bad guys section, because we all know when bad things happen, bad people show up. And the thing about it is bad people were already here. And then it brings light to those situations, and we know to be looking for that when it happens. So I see this being a positive and a revival and a movement across America.
It takes men of action, and I think that's who's stepping up. And I'm sure that Sentinel, Savage, and ourselves are included, right? We all have that past. I have an incredibly rocky past, right? But it doesn't mean you can't progress forward. And I can think of a million examples of people who have volunteered with us, who come to the end and they shake your hand. They're like, "You know what, Micah, I'll sit in my couch in Montana or Virginia or wherever." And they're like, "I was completely lost. I was depressed. I got in the military. I'm just hating life. My life fell apart. And now being here, shaking, hugging these people, showing them God's light, right, and helping has given me a purpose now, and myself included." Right? It gives you a purpose. It doesn't mean you're irredeemable, just like Saul to Paul, right? I mean, this gives us
he was out there killing Christians, and basically, I mean, and then he brought he wrote the Gospels, and he's the one that brought people to Christ. So, but he knew what it was like to be on the other end of it too. That's the key. If you're really going to fight for something, you have to know the hopelessness that you're fighting against.
Amen.
Right.
You ever hear the quote, "Every saint has a past and every sinner has a future"?
No, but that's true.
I love it.
That's exactly the way it is. Guys, I'm going to have to cut short. I'm sorry. I've got 11 o'clock that I'm going to be late to. But when are you guys going to be back in the area?
We're here indefinitely until the people get the help that they need.
Okay. Well, let's start trying to plan a podcast once a week. I can come up there.
Okay.
We can shoot up there. We can shoot down here. We can go. I saw you, I think, in your camper one day.
Yeah.
Wherever we want to go. But, I want to start making a daily podcast with people out in the field. And and here's the thing. I'm going to cut short, but I want y'all to tell your story. Leave it going. There's 10 people on right now, but this thing gets shared all over the place. So try to keep it under an hour. You're at 34 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
But tell your story and tell where you're at. I'm going to go try to get this nonprofit on board with us and another one signed up. And then I will get y'all all the info on WNC Strong and show you everything about it and see if y'all want to join up.
Yeah, we needed to hear that. Before you bolt out, you hit on something a little while ago about the training piece. You can train people to do X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
We just started having a conversation past couple of days about adding an element of training to what we do for the churches.
Yep.
To go in, to get them ready and prepared so they know what to do and they don't,
Well, that's what we need is a program. As soon as something like this happens, we have a team, and it needs to be somebody out of every group that goes straight to the churches, get them set up the way they need to be and prepared for what's going to come. And then we immediately know how to track the donations that come in. We know how to get them out. And then data is the main thing. I'm sure y'all process as much data as I was, and it was crazy trying to keep up with it all.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can start processing the data early and filing it, right now, I think we need to have an adoption program for families. And then every Monday or whatever day, we have what they need for the week packaged, and they just come pick it up, and that lasts their family for a week. Then that way, they're not worried about where they're getting these supplies for a week. They can start rebuilding.
We have that going right now.
Yeah, we need that. And then the other part that I want to add to that is all the churches from around the world, global, we identify the cities that are in need, and we just start assigning churches to a city. And a lot of it's not that we need supplies, we need money. So your church is going to help us raise money for heating, for housing, for hope, for this. And, like right now, we probably have 7 major cities or 14, whatever, how you want to call it. But church calls in, all right, you got Burnsville. Church calls in, all right, you got Marshall. Church calls in, and we just go in order, and we just keep assigning them as they come down. We try to get each one of them a big church. And then, if we get one major church that can handle the funding, like the one in Gainesville, Jensen Franklin's church, they could raise a lot of money real quick for that one town. And then they know that they're focusing on that one goal. And then we get the smaller churches, and, they're focusing on the smaller goals. Mm-hmm. And also I got a gift card program that we're writing right now that we need to talk about.
Okay.
That's a Big Brother program.
Yeah, it's a Big Brother, and that's what we're doing.
Program.
But then they're not trying to help all of Western North Carolina. They can focus their laser attention on this one town, and they can really make an impact in that town.
Yeah.
And then we just keep assigning those churches and organizations. Like I got a horseman group right now. We can put them with one, and we can just start knocking those out. So we actually have laser focused, and they know what the goals are for that town. But it's hard to look at the whole picture and say, I'm going to be successful in helping here. Mm-hmm. But if you can take it down to a bite size, it's like how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. How do you eat it even better? You have a lot of people taking small bites.
Mike O'Connor is doing that same thing right now with going through the Boy Scouts to do firewood. Yep. Getting all the different cities and the different scout masters and all to come together to do a project that helps the Boy Scouts with their merit badges and all.
Yep.
But then cuts firewood that's seasoned and gets it over. He's doing the same thing.
So we're doing
the city.
We're doing it came to me, a Christian school reached out to me. I was on the radio over there in Blairsville, and they reached out and said they had 4,000 square feet of storage. How could they help? And, the first thing that comes to mind is, all right, we'll just stockpile over there. But then I got thinking, I was a school teacher for 3 years. And I started thinking, man, we could take those kids, give them a lesson plan, and they could find a toy they love, write why they loved it, and then write why some other kid would love it. They then make a promotion for it, make an Amazon or Walmart wish list, publish it, the people buy it, they send it to the school, they wrap the toy, and then have it marked. And I mean, that's just, that's another one of God's things, me being a teacher and then this Christian school saying they want to help.
Yeah, that purview and the connection.
So we've already wrote the lesson plans for these schools. We're sending them out and we're starting on that. That way on December 15th, we're not out here trying to buy 1 million toys. We're starting now and each school's able to pick off some. So then hopefully we can take every kid, give them 3 toys.
Yeah.
And it's already lined up by December 15th, and we're just distributing them at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And working on a Christmas tree program too, guys. I gotta go.
Man.
I will. You stay for a little bit if you want to go get lunch. We'll meet up after that.
Okay, deal.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll do that.
I'm gonna
Thanks,
do
Ben. Appreciate
this
it.
meeting, and then I'll be back in contact with you in a little bit.
Cool. We'll carry on the same line of thought
Yeah,
here
keep
and
going.
cap it out at an hour.
Yep.
You go over. You go over.
All right.
Is what it is.
Yeah. See ya.
Later.
You go over.
Yeah, we're on right now. So, all righty. So to carry on that same topic, right, and theme, right now, I think we have mutually aligned efforts, but to speak particularly on what the Christian Rangers are doing with our community groups that we're affiliated with, it kind of lines up to that macro approach, which Ben was speaking of, right? So we'll talk in specific to what's going on. That way people kind of understand from our purview, obviously, what is taking place in our 3 specific counties, which are Mitchell, Yancey, and Avery counties. So first and foremost, we hit, like we initially got started with the search and rescue, with the medical support and assistance. We started a supply outpost at numerous locations. I think we had 10 or 12 running at one point. It became really crazy. But those were people up in the hollers that could come down to the churches or fire stations, get the supplies, get medical care. Connectivity was a big issue. So we would try to push Starlinks out to those locations and at least get connectivity where they could come down and get that. And we also pushed them up to the people who needed them as well. So from that standpoint, eventually the community started taking those over, which is the right ideal, that community-centric approach, which Ben and I and Mark spoke about earlier. So from that, we transitioned to the community, right? We had all these trucks coming in, all this money, all this support. And we basically, as we built those networks up, we gave it to the community. I mean, Mark and I have been in countless all-day meetings. We drive around those 3 counties, meet all the key leaders, the NGOs, try to work with the government as much as possible, and the local community leaders because they have the most vested interest in their future. So from that, we're just in meetings literally all day, every day. But we transitioned all that staying power to the community. So right now, with that community-centric approach, we have, on behalf of our allies, Resilient Recovery and Jim Artman down there, warehouse operation, which Ben was talking about right now in Marion. And Mark, you want to talk that piece?
Well, no, I just wanted to say a couple of things about what you're talking about to kind of give a little bit more big picture. Understanding the size of this particular disaster, it became very overwhelming for the local authorities, for police, fire, FEMA, all the organizations, even though they're somewhat prepared for disasters, if you will. This was very overwhelming. They have to have community engagement in this community in order for them to recover from this. Yes, there were lots of volunteers that came in. Part of what we did as a Christian Rangers was got here on the ground really quick and started organizing the efforts and helping out on the community side because it was overwhelming for all the local officials. That became quite evident. They took quite a tongue lashing for it. I get it. But the community being involved is what's going to make this become a successful rebuild event for them, a sustainment, a recovery event for the community. That's the only way they're going to be able to do it is to have the connectors. And military guys understand this very well. It's almost another day in the office for us, as where civilian folks, they don't know how to organize when there's chaos. Mm-hmm. And they're in it. Their house is gone. Their family's disrupted. We've come in and helped with providing some guidance, some structure, running supply lines. I mean, I don't know how many supply lines that we knew just from our networks, and the people that didn't have heat, didn't have houses, and are going through chaos. It's difficult for them to completely organize and get it and keep it together. And that was part of what we did as we moved through the phases of, search and rescue and immediate needs, and then delivering generators and Starlinks. But then those lines of supply lines coming in, and the organization that the community distribution points that were set up it was communities had to give up their land and house and shops. The Clark family over in Burnsville, mom and dad and the son that live on the same property that had a construction business, they gave up their entire property. The churches that gave up their, they opened their doors and they started distribution points. H&R Block, all the small, if you drive through, we're up in Burnsville, but it's probably any of these little towns you drive through, everybody is setting up and helping. And the volunteers that came needed to be organized. So us and several other organizations grabbed volunteers and organized the efforts to help the people that were really in need, because this was a big thing. And I mean, that's where I see that we were super helpful. All the other organizations that came in and did that were super helpful because of the size of the event.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. It's that connective tissue. And for us, I mean, I don't want to say it's a walk in the park. It's still extremely stressful, but we practice doing Robin Sage every 2 months. And literally our core group of people, like, we do this in practice. So it isn't as crazy as it could be. We just try to provide order and a systemic, path forward, right, with that community. Our current lines of effort that we could speak of would be that community outreach through the warehouse. So we basically have diverted, I mean, we've got trucks coming in all day, every day, and we've diverted that support, that external support, into a warehouse in Marion, which they have a cool system. I mean, it's basically like Amazon Prime. They'll have a notepad in there in the box. They'll have a tough box, and it'll have the items which that community needs, right? You have these holler communities, mostly family-based, church-based, and maybe 8 or 10 families, 20 families up in these hollers. And they'll include these boxes. They'll put the supplies in that they know that those families up there need. And then they'll get the stuff and they'll leave the box there empty. And that's Resilient Recovery working with us. And basically they'll leave a note with the supplies that they need for the next day or the next week or whatever. And then we'll come back, they'll kind of refit the boxes with those supplies coming in, and then they'll push it back out, right? So that is a pretty cool effort that's really seen a lot of success. In addition to that, we're currently focusing on behalf of the community, right, by, with, and through the community with Operation Homestead. And what that is getting these RVs. Primarily, it's been RVs for us to this point because of zoning and code issues. But we want to focus on, and we're currently focused on, and getting a lot of direct support. And we need a lot more, honestly, to purchase these tiny homes. We have at cost, a lady who's an amazing company up there in Nashville, Venture Homes, and they're making these tiny homes for us at cost, extremely supportive. And we basically have lined up these various organizations which we're working with, Christian Rangers, Bitcoin veterans, extreme supporters from day one, Free Burma Rangers, day one supporters, Operation Outreach, day one, great friends, Sentinel Group, Little Switzerland Relief Fund, and then of course Resilient Recovery. So all together working for the people, we're able to try to get these people in homes with Operation Homestead. Right now we're working on lines of funding for these tiny homes, and now we got the drivers on standby to get up to Nashville, get those homes loaded up, and get them immediately to the community, because I mean our list is 20 to 50 and growing of people that need homes right now.
Yeah, and it's the people are identified by the community. We're facilitators in all this.
Yeah.
We're just the guys that have made the connections, have had the time to reach out to the companies while the community is scrambling to try to keep their life in order. We made those connections. So then we kind of just turn that over to the community leaders and say, okay, who's in the most need? Here's the company that's going to support us. So let's get them in contact. And that's what we've done. It's an amazing thing to see when America has come together like this with the support. One of the challenges we had, and it came from a place of love, was the amount of donations that were coming in, and people were just showing up. And I got 36-foot trailer of stuff we collected and we want to donate it.
Yeah.
And, you can't turn that away. And it got to a point in the effort of, we've got so many clothes, we've got nowhere to store them. We got so much water, we got no place to store it. Oh, by the way, it's going to start getting cold. It's going to freeze if it stays outside.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of had to shift to really start honing in on figuring out what the needs were, and then trying to communicate back out to the public to say, hey, don't send this. This is what we need. Here are the needs. Try to collect and send that. And we've worked with a lot of great people that are just doing runs back and forth. Aaron Bergen and his nonprofits from Carolina were doing runs, and with his connections, providing fuel and pallets and all kinds of stuff. Mark Hager was a guy that, he's just a private guy that has been networking with people, bringing what we needed and getting it distributed to churches. So getting all those efforts, together. And as this thing has evolved, we've identified challenges and we've started working on issues to fix those challenges, so that people's donations don't go to waste. So people don't get turned away, because that was literally happening. There's places that say, we can't take this anymore. We have too much and we have nowhere to store it. It's going to be outside and it's going to get ruined and it'll be thrown away, and nobody wants that. So putting these specific plans together, like Micah has and Ben has, with just big picture planning to find out the needs of the people and put that together and get it packaged. That's super important. And he's done a good job of doing that.
And it requires, like Ben mentioned earlier, is flexibility, right? Ultimately, because I think the problem set, anybody knows this who's working in WNC right now, Tennessee also, is the problem set changes hourly. Like, you'll start getting a call and you're like, I didn't know this was an issue. We need dehumidifiers all of a sudden, right?
Yeah.
Or now there's black mold in the homes because of all the water, or now we need heating because 15 people died last night. It's hourly that stuff changes. So now, honestly, we were transitioning out. We gave all our networks to the community leaders, and we're like, okay, well, we can concentrate on the next mission, right? As Christian Rangers, because it's kind of exploded from nothing. But the crazy thing, again, it changes so quick. We're like, hey, housing, right? These people do not have housing. There is no plan that we have seen to rectify that yet. And by getting all these smaller groups, which I mentioned earlier, and now Ben and WNC Strong on board, it's beautiful, because we, as smaller organizations, are reactionary. We have that flexibility to address the immediate concerns of the population and not go through a bunch of bureaucratic red tape and garbage, and actually just get straight to the point, straight to the people in need, and actually cause a solution and a change.
Yeah, no, that's it's super important. And all of this has been overwhelming for the community. And had it not been for all the organizations coming together and getting together, and my piece has always been, let's collaborate, let's go talk with people. And Micah has just been nonstop running around, forming the relationships, identifying the community leaders.
Yep.
That was also a really important piece, because this is my thoughts moving forward. What's going to happen is, right now, everybody's engaged, and there's a bunch of people here. There's a bunch of volunteers coming in. But as this winds down and people start going back home, because they can't be here forever, we can't be here forever, there's going to be another black hole of need as they move into winter. And now there's not the distribution points, and there's not the people helping, and there's not the donations coming in. I foresee that being another kind of spike in the need for the community, which, again, we're talking about it, planning for it, and thinking about how to get through that challenge. It hit me the other day as, one of the distribution point families that, again, they literally shut down their construction business and served the community, but they've got to go back to work. And they said, we're going to have to shut down the distribution point. And it was kind of an aha moment for me. It's like, well, man, I didn't really think about what that's going to look like. We just kind of assumed, they're just going to have a distribution point.
Forever.
But they have businesses, they have families and kids, they have to pay bills. So then that got us to thinking about, okay, well, how do we transition this? How do we connect all the supplies and stuff that are at their point? And they did it themselves. They got it all worked out, which is good. That tells us that they're on board and they're getting things done. But that was one of those things. But there's going to be this change all the time as we go through this evolution of rebuild for this community. And again, all the volunteers aren't going to be here long term. There's going to be new volunteers, and as like what Ben's doing with building the community, and he's saying, hey, look, if we can get a lead carpenter or builder to run a team of volunteers
Of locals too, you know, to empower them.
Yep, keep it with locals. Yes, it's volunteers, but it's going to be using that funding that he's raising to rebuild, to then have the big impact on the community that's going to be needed. And there's bigger solutions that need to be solved. What about the person's house that got washed away, but not just the house, but the land too?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's a real thing.
The person can't even rebuild a house because the land is gone as well. So there is no rebuilding. Or now that the flood zones are being adjusted, they can't rebuild on them because the flood zones are being adjusted and the building code is not going to allow it. So there's a lot of challenges like that that need to be identified and addressed for those folks in the community that fit that scenario.
No, most definitely, and I think that's why these local solutions and organizations like we are part of are important, because the government solution, the alternative solution, is to get these people off the land, to get them in some type of housing, which we saw from Katrina ended up all those black mold trailers they put people in, which cause cancer and everything else, right? Or these loans, which they have to pay back on their property, or the housing that they give them in the first place. And if they don't pay it back, then they can commandeer the property immediately, as well as the house that they're staying in. That's not the solution, right? So organizations like Ben is creating, WNC Strong, and like we mentioned, that is the solution. This has already been memory hold, and we're a month in, right? And not only has it been memory hold, and we're not even talking about it, but even on day 2, which is when we got there, it was already memory hold, right? Because we got there because we were watching X and watching social media, and people are like, hey, there's no help. This is pure chaos. And they were showing indisputable evidence of videos of what happened. And we're like, hey, we need to get down there to help these people because they need the help, right? So not only has it been memory hold, but it's been memory hold since day 2. So now that we're on the ground here, we've identified these issues, such as I believe 70% of the population in these counties is elderly. Like that presents a prolonged field care situation, because they just don't have the ability even to get down into town to get that medical assistance. And that medical assistance honestly isn't really getting up to them or being identified to these people. I mean, we've been in war zones, right? And I honestly have not seen any type of destruction, even in Syria, even in Iraq, that is even closely similar to what which we're seeing daily. Even driving out yesterday when we gave that camper to that lady, I mean, it literally looks like a nuke went off a month in, and it's all volunteers up on the mountain.
Yeah, no, it's tough to see. And what you don't really see, if you just drive through Burnsville, it looks fairly normal. You don't see a lot, but you get up into the areas that were affected, that are just decimated, Bakersville, Pensacola, all the places. It's really bad, and you don't know. Bat Cave is wiped out. Yeah, Chimney Rock, I think, is gone. Yep. It's really bad, and you don't see it.
It's terrible.
So there's gonna be a long process, and we just have to continue to meet the challenges head on, and then smart guys get together and plan it out and talk about it. Have tough skin about things, because we all have ideas and we usually think they're all great, and then somebody sees it a little bit differently and they're like, what are you thinking? That ain't worth a crap, man. That's stupid. Let's punt and then do something else. But that's what it's going to take: collaboration and people getting together, talking about it, planning it, and figuring out what's really going to work as things change. And that's the biggest key: is things are changing and they're going to continue to change. And then we'll have aha moments and see new problems and new things and things we didn't think about. And, we're working hard to try to stay ahead of that game. With what Micah did in the military, with the special forces, this is what they do when they deploy, they pull things together and they meet with local tribesmen or elders, the community leaders, and they kind of provide them some guidance to put structure back together. So this is nothing more than being deployed for Micah with working with
For all of
special
us.
forces. Well, I mean, specifically SF mission is that, except you're not being shot at, so it's it's a good thing. Something that I wish would have went a little smoother was the way we were utilized from the local authority. We started out when it was chaotic. Mike and those guys were doing things, and something just happened, and it just got a little weird. And the authorities didn't utilize some of the assets like the prior military guys, Micah's folks. There were some different language speaking folks that could have helped out with some Spanish, but they just didn't want, for whatever reason. And I don't know. They're displaced. They're out of their element. They don't train this regularly, probably. So they're just overwhelmed. So I can understand that in that sense. But that should be a lesson learned for the next time that, hey, listen, we've got folks that do this and do it really well. And we got guys that can come in and help prevent some of the looting and the chaos by having a presence. And, oh, they're all trained to be able to do that. It's not like sending a bunch of cowboys out with guns and all this stuff. It's just simple oversight and patrolling and having a security presence as a deterrent. A lot of the times that's all it takes. But, with our military background, and a lot of the other organizations as well have military backgrounds, I really wish the local authorities would lean more, meet with us and lean more on us to join in the effort to help the communities. That was something that was disappointing for me. And I
at
know it was
least
for you as well, Micah.
Yeah, at least be humbly receptive to the assistance. I mean, we literally gave a grill. We gave millions of dollars of support. We gave the initial search and rescue. We had 10 canine search and rescue cadaver dogs running, live find, everything, right? For free, by the way, all volunteered. Experts on the ground assisting in this, doctors, like I said, Army, Special Forces, medics running around trying to provide this assistance. And they were receptive to that to a point. But then it became, I mean, literally utilizing the assets of law enforcement instead of helping people to pull surveillance on us and harass us and even kick us out of certain locations. So that just is not the answer. Bottom line, no matter what, it is not the answer. Instead, those assets should go to the community to protect the community and get supplies to the community, to a point where even we had CH-47s landing and Black Hawk helicopters bringing in supplies. We had HLZs marked out, established, right? And we had supplies coming in daily for people, including medicine that was life-saving. And those were even shut off for whatever reason, in addition to millions of dollars of money being withheld from the population, and a support package, a communications package, infrared, night vision in order to find these people, especially the heat, the infrared from drones. That was completely shut off for no reason.
Civil Air Patrol had a package ready to deploy to help in the efforts, and they've got a lot of resources and expertise. So it's just, and I think it's just a communication, lack of experience. Maybe there's some ego in it. Nobody likes to admit when they're overwhelmed or when they're when they don't have the answers. But my approach has always been when we were talking with any of those guys is, okay, so tell me how we can help. How do we need to adjust fire with the way our organization is operating to come in alignment with the way you need the help and you need us to operate so that we can help, because we're here to help, whether that's going down to all civilian clothes and wearing green Boy Scouts hats. If that's what you want us to do, that's what we'll do. Whatever it is, but how can we help? And again, that's where I kind of was frustrated, because it seemed as if they didn't want to grab an asset. And I'm just saying we're an asset because of our history. And especially, like I said, there's not just one Special Forces guy that's working Christian Rangers. Most of them are prior Green Berets or Army. So they're used to operating like this. Could be very helpful to the local community. And we still were. Our mission was totally successful. We We came in and we helped out in a lot of places, and we made a huge difference, which, makes me feel good to be able to help people. And we're still helping, and we still want to be here. We'd talked about, well, our mission is done and we're going to head on out, but we're even rethinking that. We still add value. We still have connections and can help out with housing.
These tiny homes started coming in, and we're like, all right, we'll stay. Let's get it done, man.
we were exfilling mission out, supposedly this week. And now we're like, okay, we probably don't need to do that. We'll continue to rotate in and out of here, because that's what most of us are doing as we can. And we'll still help out and get things done. And then today, I knew this was going to be important, meeting with Ben. He's doing a huge effort to collaborate and pull everybody together to really meet the needs of the community. And that's what's going to make the difference. Keeping things in the community, all of his ideas, all of his stuff, all of his knowledge and experience. Micah stood this organization up literally on a whim, spur of the moment, from his heart, and grabbed some other operators and said, hey guys, we need to go over there. Let's go. Let's stand this thing up. And he did. And, so we're looking at the successful organizations that have done this. We've learned a lot of lessons, and are getting set up so that moving forward for future things, we'll get a little bit better each and every time. And that's what I see happening as we've experienced this. It's different than wartime. Completely get it. It's more frustrating for me than wartime was, because I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think the general feeling is we're right here at home. Everybody wants us. Everybody loves us. It's come on, come all. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
That was my feeling. As where if you're in Kuwait, Iraq, Afghanistan, any of those other places, you're not necessarily wanted. Even though we're there to help, you're not necessarily wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But right here at home, it should just be. And there were times where it just didn't feel like it. And I'm only talking the local government.
Yeah. I mean, because
the people love this.
Every place we have been, and this is objectively, right? Of course, there's stupid rumors with anything going on, right? 30 days in, but none of it is true objectively. And it's crazy to look back that, like, everywhere we have been, every single holler, first thing they ask you is, are you a member of the government? Are you a Fed? Right. But also, like, we'll tell them, hey, Christian Rangers, we're here to support. We're doing this and that. And like, I can't count how many hugs we've got when we tell them that. And they just come up and like, yeah, come on. And they just tell you their life story. Half of them just want to talk,
Yeah. There's a lot of amazing people here. I mean, we have stories all day long. We got to end this thing here soon, but we got stories all day long. There's a lot of amazing people. There's a lot of resilient people here. Cowboy and I rode up on a little old lady. I don't even know if you heard this story. We were going out to do some checks, and there was a little old lady in her driveway with a shovel, filling in some holes in her driveway. I don't know how many. It was just kind of crazy. We pulled in immediately. She was 92 years old.
That's crazy.
Shovel in her hand, shoveling the driveway. She wasn't asking for help. She was doing it her daggone self. And there's just a lot of amazing people here, and they need help, and that's what we're here for. So that's our thing. And we've got more things in the works. We're planning, and more to follow. We're gonna do more podcasts probably with Ben and these guys. So we're not going to get into all that stuff moving forward. But we're gonna be here, and we're gonna continue to help out in the effort. And
amen. And I think to cap it off, we'll stay in line with the time that what you said, it really has brought out the best in people, the community, local community, and just general Americans, right? And it's shined the light of God. It's been a proof of concept. It's like, okay, barring all this other drama and the craziness, no matter how bad a situation can be, pure mayhem, it looks like a nuke went off. People can come together from around the country, and they can support each other, and they can get the mission done, which is to glorify God's kingdom and take care of the people, by the people, and for the people. That's how we're going to continue operating in the future as Christian Rangers. I know that's how Ben operates and all the organizations we spoke of earlier. So we thank you all for your time and your support. God bless you all.
God bless. Take care.
Is that right? Blew up the matrix. Really got it.
Holy cow. how did
We
you
just
do that?
deleted the whole thing, man.
Imagine. There we go.
In stream.